involved in the ACE program. And one example of this.
Mr. Baker, you are correct. There has been a bond that was voted on a couple years ago, and that bond those funds allowed us to build what we needed to do and then work through the efforts with the insurance companies to get reimbursed and continue the funding. The bond has specific items that where it's budgeted specifically, or I'm sorry, it's budgeted for specific items. One of the best examples is the road had a bond to fix. When I first came on, the first thing that was on our agenda was to get a bond passed because we needed to be able to fund the that and the ACE program. All these things are excellent things that we already have in place, and I definitely want to keep those going as well.
All right, thank you.
And now, here's the question that Mark was provided earlier. You wrote in your statement that ran the South Jetty that you would like to help Port Aransas ISD staff accomplish goals. So what specific goals would you like to see them accomplish, and how do you plan to help them reach those goals? And you will have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I definitely understand that reaching goals is a very broad concept. It's been my experience that the goals really present themselves. Like I said, from day one, when I joined the school board, the first goal was to work on getting the bond passed. I know at that time we had a lot of ideas on how we wanted to use those funds, how we can apply them to have housing in the community. Those things have been out there. They've been top agenda items for the school. But before we could even spend our first dollar on it, the hurricane showed. Became rebuilding the school. The statement that stands out best to me was actually by Ms. McKinney when she brought the school board together and said that the school is the heart of the community, and the faster that we can get the school up and running, the faster the rest of the community can heal. And I've thought about that and thought how true that is, that we've been able to help the community grow and come together with the school being really the heart of it. From there, the next goal that really presented itself was budgeting. It's the number crunching. It's Carol Sue and Ms. McKinney figuring out how we're going to pay for everything. How is the money finally coming in from the insurance going to get applied to all the repairs that are needed, and continuing at the same time to fight with the insurance companies to make sure that we maximize what we need from payments so that we could continue to fund the school. That was the next goal. Within that timeline, there was a need to expand Ms. McKinney's check writing ability, essentially, so that she could help fund several big projects without having to call the school board together. I look at the school board as an oversight. Our job on the school board is to not only be a voice of the community, but to provide oversight so that obstacles can be moved out of the way of the CEO of the school, which is the superintendent. She's the one that makes the decisions, and as we work with her and align our goals with her goals, ours being the community goals with hers, then we're able to continue to drive a successful school. From there, The future goals, again, I feel like they're going to present themselves. It's interesting that I got this question because just yesterday I was on a field trip with my son and his science class, and I was talking to his teacher, Miss Boffman, and she was, oh, am I out of time?
Yeah, sorry about that.
It was great.
Brett, you're going to now be able to respond to that, and you will have 2 minutes, starting now.
Okay. Yeah, as you were talking, Mark, I was thinking, like I guess I'm kind of on the board of MSI in a way, because I'm one of the faculty, and so we're dealing with a lot of the same issues in terms of after Harvey, having potential multiple funding sources and not knowing which of them were going to come through in terms of we had insurance from different places. We don't know if we're going to get FEMA money, and so we're dealing with a lot of the same issues that the schools did. And obviously the schools beat us in terms of getting things done because we're still rebuilding at the moment. We're still not even sure where the money's going to come from, but we're obviously been writing a lot of checks. So yeah, I completely sympathize with what you went through. Yeah.
Okay. Here's an impromptu question for Brett. Port Aransas ISD recently upgraded security by hiring a student resource officer and redesigning the front entrances on campuses and introducing an app to help staff call for help in emergencies. Do you feel that this is enough for student and staff security? And if not, what other precautions should be taken to keep everyone safe as possible from violence that's struck other school districts? And you will have 3 minutes on that, and you can start.
Okay, yeah, actually when I got my question beforehand, that was actually one of the things I was going to consider discussing is the security, because I know that's obviously a big issue throughout the nation. So, yeah, so I go to the school quite a bit because I have a flexible schedule, and I go visit my son and bring him lunch quite a bit. Lately it's been almost once a week, and so I've noticed how things have changed, and I was pretty shocked. I would admit before these things changed how easily I was able to get into the school, so I'm really glad that these things have changed. There's 2 double locking doors, and yeah, whether or not it's enough, I mean, I think what's been done is great, and I think we should keep those items in place. Whether or not what's been done is enough, I'm not entirely sure how to answer that because I feel like I don't entirely know. I'd have to see what's in place and to really assess that. So I'm lenient to not answer that question, but I feel like what we have is really good. So yeah.
Okay. Mark, you may respond to that, and you will have 2 minutes to seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was definitely one of our favorite things that we were able to accomplish when we had Gerloff on site working through all the different reconstruction efforts. We were able to also consider how these other additions might be made. We had some architectures present a few different options and budgets for the double doors coming through. That was definitely a top item for the board. We're glad we have that in place. Back to the board supporting the CEO, the superintendent. It's my stance that as she discusses with the experts in the community, such as the local police and professionals, that she's been able to deliver that information back to the board and say, hey, here's what experts who do this every day and understand it recommend that we do, and based on our environment, our unique situation, every school is going to be different. Our school has a wonderful community. It has great people. We really do look out for each other, and the police are very close by, and having them on site's a great benefit as well. I would always just say, I'm open to suggestions from the experts, and then it comes down to budgeting it.
All right, thank you. Here's an impromptu question for Mark. we just discussed security, so aside from that, what do you think are the most important issues addressed in the past year by the school board, and what do you think about the outcome of those issues? And if you could be as specific as possible in 3 minutes, that'd be great. Okay, starting now.
One specific agenda item that came through that I was able to be part of the conversation of was whether or not there was enough being done on I'm not sure how to say it, the disciplinary side of things, whether students could participate in extracurricular activities based on whether they're meeting specific code of conduct requirements. There's been one in place, and it's been successful, and it's been doing well, and it was brought up through the community that there was a request for us to readdress it and look at it, and we did, and we had a very small team where we looked at it and had some of our own ideas, but by all means we weren't trying to own this solely within our little group. So the step for us to meet any of these things is really leaning on the community, making sure we have their input and advice. So as we have to meet the needs of the community, that's the biggest important factor is what's the community saying? Are they supporting it? Are they not supporting it? I have, my beliefs and my stance on things, and so I hope they align with what the voters are looking for, and that's how I try and vote on anything. That's how I try and steer any decision that's made.
All right, thank you. And Brett, now you can respond to that. You'll have 2 minutes. Did you need that question again? Or?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Just a second, I'm sorry.
That's right.
2 minutes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I read the new document, and I have to admit I wasn't really aware of what the policy was before that. Since my son's just in elementary school, he's not involved in too many extracurricular activities yet. So honestly, I can't really respond to how much it's changed. I did like I commented on the new policy when it was sent to us, and overall I thought it was really good. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we're at closing statements now. Mark, you can make your closing statement, and you will have 5 minutes. Both of you will have 5 minutes. Just a second. And go ahead, Mark.
So I'll close with trying to finish my earlier thought when I attended Ms. Baughman's field trip out there. Back to the setting the goals. We just had a quick conversation about how the school could be more environmentally conscientious, and how being in this area of the state of Texas, being on the coast and having a beautiful town of Port Aransas, if our town can't set the bar high enough, then I don't know who will. And I just loved having that brief conversation just to get my mind flowing. And as a member of the board, I think it's important to be available to listen to the teachers, to listen to parents, to listen to ideas from anywhere that they come, especially the students. They're the smartest ones of all, and they're not shy about expressing their thoughts on anything. So as we have needs, as we see needs as a community, I am absolutely open to hearing them. I'd love to just brainstorm with anybody on these thoughts, and as I stated earlier, then it comes down to budgeting. So we've got to find ways to fund any efforts on our part.
Okay, thank you. Brett, your closing statement now, and you will have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so thanks for coming out and being involved in this. Listen to what I have to say. When I reflect on our schools and why they're important, I mean, there's obvious reasons, but kind of there's two things that really are obvious to me. without the schools in Port Aransas, I think our community would be a lot better, a lot worse off, because if you look at, I mean, for instance, ourselves, if there wasn't a public school in Port Aransas, if it somehow didn't work, we would obviously not live here. So that's one, for the community in general. Two, for kids. So I'm very interested in making sure that our kids are well educated, and so as an example, last week I was at a meeting in DC, and I met with the former head of NSF, and we had this really long discussion about how the National Science Foundation should gear its research in terms of my field of microbiology. But we also had this really long discussion about how we need to better train students for our field, and not just our field, you know, science in general. Because as an example of this, and one of the really obvious things that we came up with was having a better foundation of coding. And I think, honestly, I think that, you know, when you talk about like keeping, you know, our community in check and doing really well, one of the jobs that, you know, there's obviously a lot of really good jobs in town, but one of them is that, you know, if you teach kids how to code, they can actually work remotely very well. So you could potentially, if you're training kids to do more coding, they could be staying in town and becoming part of the community instead of moving off and doing other jobs. So at least, you know, these coding jobs are really high paying. So also, I just want to close by saying my motivations for this are nothing more than I just want to help in any way I can, and I feel that my experience in academia and in research can really add to the school board's capabilities. So thanks.
All right, thank you. That is it. That's going to be it for the night. I want to also thank the candidates here for place 6 and wish them luck also. And thank all of y'all for coming in and for tuning in. And last word to the audience, early voting starts on Monday, this coming Monday, and goes through April 30th, except for the Saturday and Sunday in the middle of that period. Balloting will take place at the community center, and election day is Saturday, May 4th. Keep watching the South Jetty. We'll keep following it, the running stories all through that period, and after the election too. And of course, the results both online and in the print edition. And thank you all very much.
Can we vote now?
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you.
See you.